Good day, Gambia. Welcome, and welcome to yet another edition of This Take. It's been quite a while, but we have a lot to talk about as a country. Our budget, our money, the future of Gambians yet unborn, because what we spend today that we don't earn, we have to borrow. If we borrow, it's the future generations of Gambians who's going to pay. So yes, three major things that we need to take care of. On the newspapers last week, we saw a proposed 50% increase on government salaries. A noble gesture, a good effort to entice the civil service. But before we can do that and add it onto our budget, we need to make sure that we have civil service reform, whereby the civil service will be rationalized, the civil service will be downsized, and the smaller numbers of who are left behind should be well remunerated, thereby giving them the 50% we're asking for. But if you give out a 50% across the board today, it's catastrophic. Why? Because we're going to borrow money. How are we going to borrow money? Either we have a deficit financing or we raise taxes to make sure that we pay for these obligations as and when they're due. Do we want to increase our tax levels? Do we want to increase our tax rates? I think the answer is no, because we want to grow the economy. And in growing the economy, the prudent and rational thing to do is to reduce the tax rates and broaden the tax base. But having to raise more revenue, the only way it can happen in today's Gambia is to increase taxes. An increase in taxation may not be a good thing for the economy, especially an economy that needs a jolt, an economy that needs to restart, an economy that needs its engine to be lubricated. I think we need to be mindful of what kind of budget we're going to have. Looking at the proposed 2019 budget is highly expansionary. And it's expansionary in the recurrent area. What is recurrent? Recurrent are things that are due and must be paid on a periodic level, be it 30 days, 3 months, or 6 months. Recurrent means our salaries, the rents for embassies and other things. So what we're seeing in the budget, the recurrent cost of the budget has gone up significantly. Can we sustain that? The answer is no. Does our core fundamentals, the fundamentals of this economy, can it handle that? The answer is no. Therefore, the 50%, like I said, a noble gesture, but wrong timing as it relates to our economic trajectory and our current economic situation. We cannot borrow our way to prosperity. Neither can we tax our way to prosperity. Therefore, Gambia needs an incremental growth. But this incremental growth needs what you call an accelerated growth model, whereby we will look at areas that can induce growth in the economy, make sure the economy grows. And these areas are in the private sector. These areas are in the productive sectors of the economy and also our infrastructure. So if we really want to bloat our budget, let's bloat it in the area of infrastructure so that it can yield an economic dividend down the road. That kind of borrowing, I don't mind. That type of expansionary budgetary allocations, I don't mind. But on a recurrent area, I do have a serious problem. Secondly, we need a debt legislation so that we can have a debt ceiling. What does that mean? The budget, as it is, we all know that today there's a 1.2 supplementary bill that needs to be put before Parliament. What does that mean? Now against end December, the government is saying they need at least $1 to $1.2 billion. Well, as far as I know, there is no way we have an absorption capacity to spend $1.2 billion in the next 21 days. And if you take the weekends off, you're looking at 17 days thereabout, 16 to 17 days. But what does that mean? It means that most likely the government has already spent these monies. So they're getting the supplementary to make sure that they're in line. But that's deficit financing through the back door. We're financing a deficit. So today, if we institute what you call a debt ceiling. It means the government cannot borrow. And if you have a budget, you have to live within the budget. Honestly, it's time that we Gambians really scrutinize our budget. But where are our parliamentarians? The parliamentarians have been tasked to make sure that they do have an oversight. And oversight is not post-expenditure, it's pre-expenditure before people commit and spend. So therefore, when a budget bill is tabled before the parliament, we do expect the parliament to scrutinize the budget, but we need to first find out, do they have the requisite competence to make sure that that is done? If not, they are at the mercy of the very sector that brings the budget in front of them for ratification, amendment, or acceptance. I do hope that the parliamentarians take their oversight responsibility seriously, because we're talking about the lives and livelihoods of Gambians. We're talking about a future generation of Gambians that we're about to spend their monies by borrowing today in current dollar value. This is not accepted, and I think we all need to add our voice. We want a budget that's within the means of Gambians. We want a budget that's not going to put a burden onto our taxation, because tax efficiency is also an issue, but tax compliance in Gambia is also low, because the rate that we're charging taxes are somehow high, therefore forcing people to do other things to avoid being within the tax net. Do we want to increase the incidence of this? No. So let's find a way to make sure that we have a budget. And we also want to make sure that government do run a balanced budget. We cannot spend beyond our means. And we know that our budgets outside of the grant and aid we get outside is based on taxation, because non-tax revenue is very minute in terms of its contribution to the overall budget. So the budget significantly relies on taxation for its revenue base. And we don't want to overtax an overburdened economy. George Bush once said, may his soul rest in peace, is the economy stupid? Bill Clinton said the same. Is our economy stupid? Or shall I say, are our economists stupid? I don't think they are. But political expediency should not be part of public policy, especially fiscal management of our economy. On that note, I say a big thank you. And I do hope that this bill, once brought forth to the parliament, they will really scrutinize it to make sure that Gambia wins. And Gambia winning is taming our expectations and being frugal with our expenditure. We cannot spend what we don't have. We cannot tax ourselves to prosperity, and we should make sure that we don't leverage the lives and livelihoods of Gambians yet unborn. So, the public servants preparing a budget, the parliamentarians and the legislatures doing justice by ratifying or passing the appropriation bill must be mindful of their duty and honor to country and the people of the Gambia. Indeed, like I said, it's noble to give Gambians an increase, but let's afford it. And affording it is living within our means, and I don't think we can. I wish the Ministry of Finance can tell me where they're going to get that money to pay for the salary increases. Have they looked into the inflationary tendency and the pressures it can build on this economy? The core fundamentals of this economy are not that robust at this time to call for some of the expansionary fiscal measures I am seeing within this proposed budget. So long, Gambia, and I do hope we do what we need to do to get better days ahead, because we really need better days. But for us to get better days, we need to swallow the bitter pills of reorganizing our economy. And in reorganizing our economy, it calls for sacrifices, not an expansion of our fiscal space. Thank you. Good night.